All praise to our Heavenly Father, the Most High Yah, the great I am that I am. In the name of our Lord and Savior, some of y'all say Yahushua, some of y'all say Jesus, and some of y'all say Yahweh Shah. All right, Trump, Epstein, MAGA, Gaza, and the Hebrew Israelites. What does all of that have to do with one another? I know y'all trying to figure it out. What's this video going to be about? When you think about it, what's the common denominator in all those things? Israel. Right? So this is what the video is going to be about, right? How this theme of Israel lines all the way throughout all of these news stories that we have been seeing, you know what I mean, playing out on the internet, okay? So let's first start with Trump and Gaza.
The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it. We'll own it. We'll own it.
And be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
All right. So the first thing that I want y'all to see in that first clip is that you see where Trump said America would take over the Gaza Strip and own it, right? Well, when you look at the gas fields, the oil and gas fields, that's right there by the Gaza Strip. You see how it's right off the coastline? Okay. And you can see that the reason that the United States may want to go over there is not just because they're trying to bring peace to that region, but that it may be very profitable for them to go over and set up army bases or naval bases, you know what I'm saying, right there in the Gaza Strip where all that oil field, those oil fields are, okay? Let's go to an article that I pulled up and I want y'all to see what I'm talking about. So as y'all can see from the UN Trade and Development, okay, unctad.org, okay, you can pull this article up. What does it say? The unrealized potential of Palestinian oil and gas reserves, all right? And you can see this article is on the 28th of August, 2019. It says oil and natural gas resources in the occupied Palestinian territory could generate hundreds of billions of dollars for development. So now, according to this article, it reads, geologists and resource economists have confirmed that the occupied Palestinian territory, OPT, lies above sizable reservoirs of oil and natural gas wealth in Area C of the West Bank and the Mediterranean coast off the Gaza Strip. And where's all that stuff happening? In the West Bank and off the Gaza Strip, according to a recent UNCTAD study. New discoveries of natural gas in the Levant Basin are in the range of 122 trillion cubic foot, while recoverable oil is estimated at 1.7 billion barrels, according to the study entitled The Economic Cost of Occupation for the Palestinian People, the Unrealized Oil and Natural Gas Potential. This offers an opportunity to distribute and share about United States $524 billion among the different parties in the region and promote peace and cooperation among oil belligerents, the study notes. These funds could finance socioeconomic development in the OPT as part of the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. However, so far the Palestinian people have been prohibited from exploiting the oil and gas reserves in their own land and water to meet their energy needs and generate fiscal and export revenues. This increases both the opportunity cost and the total cost borne by the Palestinian people as a result of occupation, the study states. All right, so now y'all see exactly why it is in United States interest to go down there and try to secure those oil fields. See, this is not the stuff that they will tell you on, CNN, Fox News, or any of that stuff. They're not going to tell you that, right? What they're going to tell you is that, the Palestinian people, Hamas attacked them and all this type of stuff. And what they're trying to do is move those people off the land. That's why Trump was saying, y'all can't come back. We don't want you to come back. And they went in, they leveled all of their residential homes so they can't go back to that region, right? And then they talk about, but we're going to rebuild and we're going to bring workers. Where you think them workers are going to come from? 9 times out of 10, they're going to come from the Ukraine, right? Because you think about it, Russia is bombing the Ukraine. NATO and all that stuff started with Russia by, giving Ukraine all this stuff or whatever, provoked Russia to the point Russia started bombing the Ukraine. Now that Russia's tearing the Ukraine up, remember, they withheld things. Zelensky came over here begging for weapons and stuff, right? But see, NATO and them never wanted them to win because they want to remove the Palestinians out there and bring in more of these Ashkenazi Jew who are really Ukrainian Khazars to come down into that land so they can work, right? And you're going to hear, what somebody's going to say later on in this video, right? So they can come down there and work. And then after that, set up, occupied, these people are going to come in and you're going to bring in more of these Ukrainians to come down here and develop the land, build whatever and try to make it look like it was biblical prophecy being fulfilled, you see? So this is why when we start understanding why they want to go over there, the motives for going over there, but this is how the Most High is luring them down into the situation, right? But again, if you're trying to go in and take over that land, the same way these same colonizers came over here to America and did the Aboriginal, Americans who was really here, the copper colored people, when they came over here and took over the land, it's the same thing that they're doing now. But what they don't understand is that the Most High has already promised that land to the children of Israel, the real children of Israel. So all of y'all that went over there trying to get that land for whatever resource, I don't care if it's the Palestinians, I don't care if it's, the Americans, I don't care if it's those Israeli Ukrainians, right? I don't care who it is. You going down there into the land that you shouldn't be going in because y'all want to get, some oil and gas and whatever, and it's going to be to your own detriment. But in the meantime, when we see all these suffering, there's been a public cry because as they're leveling these buildings and destroying these people's lives, it's all being broadcast, via the internet, right? So now let's go and look and see what they're even trying to say about that on the news.
19 people have now starved to death in Gaza in just the past 24 hours. And that represents a cruel new phase in Israel's genocide in the Palestinian territory. The UN says it's receiving desperate messages of starvation while aid is stockpiled just outside. Kulsum Sharif reports.
Desperate for a bowl of soup. Large crowds gathered to get their first meal in days. They've risked their lives to find something to eat.
We are dying of hunger and we cannot find food or drink, not even water. We drink from the sea and we cannot find food at all.
Gaza's health ministry has warned that an unprecedented number of starving citizens are arriving for treatment. But barely functioning hospitals are hardly able to treat the injured, let alone those suffering from malnutrition.
We have lived through the first and second uprisings, the wars of 2008, 2009, and 2021. Honestly, we've never experienced such famine. We are truly fed up. Enough is enough.
But food isn't the only thing that's in short supply in Gaza. Starving Palestinians also need to risk their lives and often walk long distances to find water to drink. Israel's genocide on Gaza has not only killed nearly 60,000 Palestinians, it's also damaged or destroyed a majority of all water and sanitation facilities.
We are sitting in tents just waiting for water, potable water and salty water. My husband used to come, but he got hit with a bullet in his head, and it's still there, so I have to come by myself to get water.
Now to Israel, issuing new evacuation orders in Gaza. Dozens of Palestinians were killed by Israeli fire as they waited for food in northern Gaza. But the IDF maintains there was an imminent threat. And we want to warn you, some of these images are graphic. Here's ABC's Patrick Reevell.
Tonight, hospitals flooded with dozens of Palestinians after Israeli troops opened fire near a crowd trying to collect food. Nearly 70 killed and more than 150 wounded, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. The bloodshed happening as thousands were desperately seeking flour in northern Gaza. This man says, "We raised our hands like this, signaling we were peaceful. Then they started firing at us." The IDF questioning the casualty figures, saying they fired to remove a, quote, immediate threat. With no end to the war in sight, most days now dozens of Palestinians are reported killed as they try to get food. Israel tonight saying it will now expand its ground operation into a new area of central Gaza, ordering tens of thousands to move again. People today praying with the Patriarch of Jerusalem, Cardinal Pizzaballa, leading Sunday Mass in Gaza's only Catholic church. The Cardinal granted a rare visit after Israeli tank fire hit the church earlier this week.
All right, so y'all see. Not only are they over there starving those people, but they're also bombing churches, right? You're starving people, and then when these people are going even to the food centers to try to get some help, get some flour, you're shooting them as they're going there to get food, right? These are the atrocities that these people are committing. Now, mind you, this is supposed to be the United States, which is predominantly a Christian country, and this is supposed to be the state of Israel, you know what I mean, who's supposed to have, you know, Torah-based views, you know what I'm saying, even though they reject Christ, you know what I mean, the New Testament, they still supposed to have, you know what I'm saying, you know, Old Testament beliefs. But what people are finding out, and the reason why people are speaking out against them, because now it's like, y'all are a bunch of savages, right? You're not practicing the Torah. You're not practicing, you know what I'm saying, the New Testament. Y'all, and so how are you going to get United States, which is supposed to be a Christian country, how are you going to get these people to support this genocide, right? Because that's what it is. How are you going to get people to support that? This is the problem that they're having. This is why, you know what I mean, they roll out their propaganda. And this is why when people see this, you know what I mean, they got to say, oh, well, it was because Hamas, you know, they attacked us first. And so that's the reason why we came in with an iron fist and we're trying to, you know, bomb out Hamas and all. No, you're not. Y'all wanted to go over there because y'all want them oil fields. You're lying to the people, right? And for all of these Christian Zionists who support this, now they got egg on their face and they're looking bad, right? Now let me show y'all this next interview so y'all can really see how this deception has started, you know what I'm saying, with even them saying these people are the true children of Israel in the first place, because they're not. And this is why people are now starting to dig in and starting to hear that these people that came back in 1948, they committed atrocities when they came down there, and these people are not truly the true children of Israel. They're a bunch of converts and they're a bunch of fakes. And they were founded by, you know, a bunch of atheists who came down there in the first place, you know what I'm saying? Just because they wanted to get down there to get the resources in that land. Let me show y'all this next interview.
Jewish identity is all contrived. It's synthetic. It's artificial. People sat down, and they still do today. There are think tanks, JPPI and various others like that. And I think, how could we further advance Zionism? How could we change the story? How could we better the story? How could we progress? How could we get more followers? And one of the things they did was they wanted to make Jews appear as if they are organically connected to the Holy Land, but not from a religious perspective, not from a spiritual perspective, not from a God-centric perspective. Zionism itself was created as a substitute for Judaism, a replacement for Judaism, and a way to negate Judaism.
Yeah, so that takes us to our first question. What is a Jew?
Zionists are unable to answer because the they negated the real definition. When I say the real definition, I mean the only intellectually consistent one. Being a Jew, in the most accurate way to describe it, is a job description given by God. God said, you are deputized into this religion, you are obligated to fulfill these commandments, whether you do them or not. The obligation, the job description, defines you as a Jew. Now, the Zionists didn't want this definition of Jew. The Zionist plan was to change, to end anti-Semitism by changing Semitism as far as Jews are concerned.
All right. So y'all hear what he just said about what is the definition of a Jew. And he said it's basically who God, gives a job to, you know what I'm saying? And this is what comes from the mind of a convert, right? He talks about a job that you can attain rather than it being your lineage, okay? So when we talk about Amos chapter 3, verse 1 through 3, we see where this is what it says. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family. So you see, being part of Israel, it means you were part of the family, right? It's your lineage. It ain't got nothing to do with no job in description, right? But he said, hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, children of this man, Israel, against the whole family, which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth, because the Most High revealed himself to the children of Israel. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities. So whenever Israel breaks the covenant that they made with the Most High, you should see signs on the children of Israel based off what the Most High said he would do to them, right? Right. Next, we pick this up, Numbers chapter 13, right? And it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, send thou men that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. So you see, this land was given to this family, right? So this family, I'm going to give y'all the land of Canaan, okay? I'm going to give this land to y'all. Of every tribe of their fathers shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. And Moses, by the commandment of the Lord, sent them from the wilderness of Paran. All those men were heads of the children of Israel. So remember, Israel had 12 sons, okay? And these were their names. Now, when they went to search out the land of Canaan that the Most High said he was going to give them, they sent out the head of their tribes, right? So, but we're going to concentrate on the names of the tribes. Of the tribe of Reuben, which is one of the sons, of the tribe of Simeon, which is another son, of the tribe of Judah. So this is where the term Jew really comes from. It's about people who come from the tribe of Judah, right? Judah is one of Israel's sons, okay? But we see the rest of the other sons, which is Issachar. We also got Ephraim, but Ephraim replaces Joseph because Ephraim is Joseph's son, right? So anyway, but you see Ephraim, you see Benjamin, you see Zebulun, you see Joseph, namely of the tribe of Manasseh. So that's Joseph's other son. Okay, so Ephraim and Manasseh basically count as Joseph. Now, the reason why you don't see, why these 12 are here and you don't see Levi is because Levi was not given any land. Levi was the priest, okay? But then the rest of the sons are Dan, Asher, Naphtali, and Gad, okay? So now you see that this land was given to a certain family. It had nothing to do with him saying, oh, well, I'm giving y'all a job description, and anybody who gets this job, you become Israel. That's a lie, right? You become a Jew. That's a lie. That's why they always say God made a covenant with the Jewish people. No, he did not. He made a covenant with the children of Israel, right? And that's a family. It's a lineage. It has nothing to do with these people and their conversion stuff, right? So now let's keep going.
But now that's where the identity crisis comes in. The subtitle of my book is Zionism's Journey from Identity Crisis to Identity Theft. The Zionists didn't understand this. They were thinking, why do people hate us if we're just like the Gentiles? We're just regular Russians.
If we're just like the Gentiles, we're just regular Russians. If we're just like the Gentiles were just regular Russians.
Why do they look at us as Jews? The Zionists had said to themselves, hey, we don't want to be Jews, but the Gentiles won't let us be Gentiles. So what are we? That was the identity crisis. And many scholars have used that phrase in various contexts. It was an identity crisis. So they came up with what I call identity theft. We're going to change the definition of Jew. And they said, hey, nationalism worked for so many people, let it work for the Jews as well. So we're going to change the definition of Jew to a nationality. Until the Zionists, nobody looked at the Jews as a nationality. The plan was to change the definition of a Jew to a nationality. Nationalism is another name for Zionism, Jewish nationalism. That's all Zionism is. But the thing to know about Zionism is that whereas the Kurds, for example, look at themselves as a nationality and they're trying to find a state, right? The Jews never did. The Zionists had to convince the Jews that you are not what you think you are. You are not the Mamleches Kaihanim V'Goy Kodesh. You are not a people who are enjoined by God to fulfill this religion, these religious laws. You are a nation. You need a language. You need a flag. You need a country. Because Jews didn't share a language for 2,000 years. More than for thousands of years we hadn't spoken Hebrew. In biblical times they did, but that wasn't the national language of the Jewish people, meaning that's not what united us into being a people. The only thing that united us into being a people is our Torah, our faith. It was so well known that this quote that we are only a people because of our faith, it's over 1,000 years old, and it was like the meme of Jewish identity. Even Theodor Herzl mentions it in his diary. Everybody knew that. The Zionists had to change that. And because Jews had no flag, they had no common language, culture, or land, the Zionists had to provide them with it. The Zionists set out to synthesize a new nationality. So the Zionists, Theodor Herzl mostly had this brilliant idea. You know, if you want to if you want to change your identity, a witness protection program or something, you can get the government to give you a whole new identity, and that'll work. But there's a lot of resources and time and effort spent to create such. There's another way to do it that's easier. Kill somebody that's around your age, steal his papers, steal his birth certificate, steal his license, steal his identity, and you're him. That's what the Zionists did to the Jews collectively. We're going to erase Jewish identity. We're going to take their history, change it a bit. We're going to take their identity. We're going to take their self-image. We're going to take Jewishness, and we're going to make it into Zionism. We're going to get the Jews a flag. There was a Zionist flag before there was a state of Israel. We're going to get the Jews a language. There was a Zionist language. Modern Hebrew was created by the Zionists before there was a state of Israel, because they wanted to supply the Jews with national characteristics, national symptoms, national equipment. They redid history, redid ideology, and just started creating cultural centers and schools and an entirely new, it was a social engineering project. But one thing they were unable to steal, and that's the definition of a Jew. Considering what the definition of a Jew is, it depends on Torah law. Whoever the Torah says is obligated in the commandments is a Jew.
All right. So now, y'all see that clearly, right? This man is talking from the perspective of a Jew being a convert. And he said the only thing that ties them all together as a people is based off of their Torah and off of their faith, right? So this is what he said. And what he was trying to say is that the Zionists stole the Jewish people's identity, right? Which that's a freaking lie. You know what I'm saying? We just now seen that the Jewish people, right, stole the identity of the children of Israel, right? Because the children of Israel is a family. What tied the children of Israel together is that they were kinsmen. You see what I'm saying? Their blood, their lineage, right? They all descend from this man named Jacob. He never said anything about we descend from Jacob, who God changed his name to Israel. He never said that, right? He was talking about them practicing the religion or the laws and the customs that the Most High gave to the children of Israel. That's a religion, right? That's a faith, okay? That's a belief system, all right? The same thing that Christianity is, a faith. It's a belief system, right? That was what was brought forth by someone who came from the tribe of Judah, which was Yahusha, Yahushua, Jesus, right? That's the true faith of what we supposed to be calling Christianity. But when the Romans got a hold of it, they start changing that faith and made it into something else and changed the image of that man who came down here, who was really the word of the Most High Yah in the flesh, right? They changed his image from being that of a Hebrew Israelite to that of a Roman Gentile, right? So now this is where the Hebrew Israelites come onto the scene, where the Most High start waking up the children of Israel and said, it's not them Jewish people that I had a covenant with. The covenant that I had established with was with you. That's the reason why you were put on slave ships. That's the reason why you were scattered. That's the reason why you had yokes of iron on your neck. And that's the reason why to this day you are the tail and not the head, because these so-called Zionists and Jewish people stole your identity, right? Now let's go and listen to, as the Hebrew Israelites are going in now trying to explain this stuff to the other true Hebrew Israelites in these Christian Zionist churches. And you see the response of what they got. So now let's go to the next clip.
The Holy Ghost got me up early this morning, and I saw people surrounding the church. They tell me the Hebrews are outside of the church.
Your eyes too blind to see it.
Shalom, Israel, Most High Christ bless. Look, we just came from blitzing Pastor, what is his name? Tyrone Jefferson. We went there to ask questions. The pastor said, ignore us.
So when y'all exit the building, you just do this and keep going.
The response to a question out the Bible is to twerk at us. So twerking and hostility and lies is what we was met with. These churches ain't about nothing. And we need to leave these churches.
That's right.
Keep the commandments of God and the faith of Christ. And with that, we say, Shalom.
According to the numbers that I've seen, this is the fastest growing homegrown religion in America. Hebrew Israelism is growing by conversion rates.
So actually, they're actually persuading people.
They are absolutely persuading people. Large reason is because its growth is primarily attached to poorly churched Christians.
Bruce Lawn. Vocab Malone's in the house.
Hey!
I don't know when I heard of you initially through Christian hip hop stuff.
Probably.
You're probably now one of the foremost engagers in the
Hebrew
Israelite world. Why are you such a glutton for punishment with those guys, man? Those dudes are really aggressive. And we were hanging out in Phoenix, and it was like, I just wanted to see you. I was like, hey, man, like, I'm in Phoenix. You're like, want to go out and talk to the Hebrew? No, vocab. I have zero desire to go talk to the Hebrew Israelites. What is, like, give me your understanding for your heart on why you have a burden for these folks. And is it for them, or is it for the people that watch? Like unpack some of that for me.
Well, it doesn't start with watching for me. It starts when I found out a number of years ago, Ruslan, they're literally going into the middle of services at churches, interrupting the service, saying, "You're Israelites, here's why, da 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 da." And if you don't agree, then they curse them out and leave. So I found out this was happening, and so I looked into it, but I was like, I don't know if I'll ever see these guys. So the way I heard about it is an old friend from my old neighborhood says these guys are coming around. Sometimes they'll try to deny it, but they still do a version of this where they go on the outside of churches. You don't see them as often going directly into the service, But that tactic really bothered me. I care about the church. I care about God's people. I'm not trying to sound all sanctimonious, but that kind of intrusion, because I'm all for dialogue.
You're talking about full-on disruption of services.
Going into and specifically in Columbus, where I'm from.
All right. So now y'all seen from the first clip that the Hebrew Israelites were starting to go into these churches, right? And they start telling the Negroes, going to Negro churches and also standing out on the streets and telling the Negroes, listen, these people have been telling us that we are just Negroes and that we were Gentiles, you know what I mean? We were even Canaanites and all this type of stuff. When all honesty, we are the true children of Israel, based off of Deuteronomy chapter 28, right? So here's where we go to verse 45, where it says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder. So now the Hebrew Israelites are trying to tell, you know, the Negro Christians, you know what I mean, and Negro unbelievers that, listen, we're in trouble. All these things have happened to us because we haven't kept the commandments of the Most High God. So this is the reason why we're in trouble, right? And he said, these curses would be a sign to tell you who you are, right? Verse 47, because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. So this describes our poverty. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck. This describes our captivity, until he have destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. So this describes why when we got brought over to all these different nations, we didn't understand the language, right? We drop down Deuteronomy 28, verse 63 through 68, and you can see that the curses also say this about what would happen to the children of Israel. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught, and you shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. So not only would you be scattered, but even in these nations that you get scattered to, you're not going to find no ease, right? And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, which Egypt represents the house of bondage. So he'll bring you back into bondage again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you, or no man shall redeem you and get you out of this bondage, right? All right. So you see, the Hebrew Israelites are now going to the Negroes and telling the Negroes, listen, you ain't Negro, you be Hebrew Israelite, right? And needless to say, some of the Negroes say, I be no Hebrew Israelite, I be Negro, right? And so now you see a division that's happening amongst the Negro and the Hebrew Israelite. So then what do we see in the second clip, right? You see these Gentiles who are outside of this group, you know what I mean, division, trying to come in and exploit the division, right? So you sit there and says, wait a minute, they're going to the church folk. Whoa, 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 whoa. And this conversion, now some of these Negroes are saying, oh yes, I do be Hebrew Israelite, right? And that's what they got afraid of, right? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. They starting to believe, they starting to convert. So now here comes the Christian Zionists, you know what I'm saying? To try to make sure that the Negro Christian Zionist doesn't break free of his mental slavery, the bondage that he's still in his mind, because he don't know his identity, because he has identity stripped from him. So here they come in to say, yes, you still be Negro, You know what I mean? Don't you listen to them Hebrew Israelites. You know what I'm saying? So they in there, trying to make us to still believe that these Ashkenazi imposters are us, right? So they come in and say, well, you know what? And then on top of it, they got to make sure they go on these little talk shows and then start saying, hey, Christian Zionists, don't y'all listen to them Hebrew Israelites either. Y'all know we be massa. They be slaves, right? You know what I'm saying? They not the children of Israel. We ain't going to look up to them. No, sir. We ain't doing that. Right? So now this is where you see they would rather, in believing this lie, that these imposters from the Ukraine, who are really Russians, as the man said, they would rather believe that they are the true children of Israel, even though the signs are not upon them. Even though they didn't have yokes of iron placed on their neck, they wasn't scattered all over the world and taken into captivity, right? And they didn't get brought back from all over the world, you know what I'm saying? And didn't go into captivity via slave ships, right? They owned the slave ships, right? They owned the plantations, but they didn't tell everybody that. They blamed that on other American white people, right? So that's why they didn't want the Christian Zionists to believe that these Hebrew Israelites are telling you the truth concerning who are the true children of Israel, because then these Christian Zionists would say, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me these people are not the true children of Israel, and we've been supporting all of that with our money and our tax dollars, and our children been going over there to war for that? And you mean to tell me these people ain't the real true children of Israel? Is that what you telling me? That's why Vocab and Ruslan is actually, from what I hear, he's married to a Negro, right? But he don't want to say, oh, well, yeah, I'm married to a Hebrew Israelite, right? You see what I'm saying? He don't want her to know. You see what I mean? But the bottom line is, this is where now, even though they don't want to believe the Hebrew Israelites when they're saying it, this thing start getting out, and other people, because of what's going on in Palestine, are starting to say the exact same thing. And now, you got a lot of people that's singing like birds now. Let me show you the next clip.
Evangelical Christians' support for Zionism is one of those strange cosmic anomalies which are hard to explain. Through disinformation, media propaganda, and even the lies of their own pastors, they're being manipulated into something which is against the teachings of Jesus Christ and even Judaism. They are told that they need to support and send money to Israel because Israelis are God's chosen people, and for the sake of building the third temple and for rapture to happen. But in reality, they're being subject to the biggest scam in history, even bigger than the Bernie Madoff scam. And the sad part is that their pastors are complicit in this scam, even though Christ has warned them in Bible in the chapter of Matthew, which we will discuss later. Did you ever notice that the modern state of Israel is sold to American liberals as the only poor secular democracy in the Middle East, surrounded by the hostile Muslim theocracies? And at the same time, to religious Christians, it is sold as the biblical land of chosen people. Now, it can be either biblical or secular. It cannot be both at the same time, right? So that means that one party is being lied to. In reality, both are being lied to, but in the interest of today's topic, we will focus on Christians. The modern state of Israel is not blessed because it is not the original biblical Israel. It is fooling the world by reusing the name Israel. Just like there is fake counterfeit money, this is counterfeit Israel. Let's compare it with the original biblical Israel. The biblical Israel was founded by a prophet of God, King David, in the name of the Lord, according to God's commandments. The modern state of Israel was founded by atheists who hated God and traditional Judaism, and they founded this country in the name of their own ethnicity, ignoring God. And that is plainly against God's commandments to Jews. The father of Zionism, Theodor Herzl, and The early Zionists did not believe in God, but they needed Jews to move to Israel because they needed manpower.
But they needed Jews to move to Israel because they needed manpower. But they needed Jews to move to Israel because they needed manpower
And workers to rule. So what did they do? These atheists then invoked Bible and the name of God to lure unsuspecting Jews who didn't know much about their religion into moving to Israel.
So now y'all see, now you get some of these Arabs that are starting to speak up, starting to sing like birds, right? And say, listen, those are not the true Israelites that came back into the land, right? This is a fake counterfeit version of Israel, right? The people that it was responsible for even bringing them back here, Theodore Herzl, which is what you heard the Jewish man say, right? So you got a Jewish man saying that, and you got an Arab man saying that, and they both said, listen, them people was atheists. It had nothing to do with bringing people back based off of these being the true children of Israel, from who in the Bible the Most High gave that land to. Now, he said David established that, and that goes to show you he don't even know everything, right? Because God made the promise to Abraham. That promise went down to Isaac, Abraham's son, and then from Isaac to Jacob, Isaac's son. And Jacob's name got changed to Israel, and then the promise went to Israel's 12 sons, the children of Israel, right? So it was a family thing, okay? So now, the bottom line is, you see, with all of them, both the Arabs and Jewish people, none of them want to say who the true children of Israel is. See, you can say it's the Palestinians all you want to, but the Palestinians didn't get put on slave ships and scattered all over the world and didn't have yokes around placed on their necks either, right? But you see, nobody wants to tell the truth of who are the true children of Israel, right? Except for the Hebrew Israelites and us, that's what we're here telling it. You know what I'm saying? And now you got some of these Gentiles who are converts, who are Christians, and now they're starting to say it, okay? But now what is happening is the Christian Zionists are now on the run, you see? Now they got to explain, all right, well, tell us, why are those people that y'all say the Most High brought back in 1948, they don't have the Holy Spirit in them? They didn't come back with the king. They reject the king and say that the king is boiling in hot excrement, right? And you know what I'm saying? Y'all sitting here telling us that if they are the true children of Israel, why can't they stand before their enemies? Why ain't they just defeating everybody? Why are they being taken hostage? Why are they not dwelling in safety? Because that's what the prophecy said, right? So now everybody is starting to, look at these Christian Zionists and say, you've been deceived, right? You've been told lies, and you're a participator of these Zionist evil works. You're part of that, which now, of course, MAGA, you see what I'm saying? Who basically are conservative Christians who supported Donald Trump, right? Thinking that he was against all of these Israeli foreign wars and all this type of stuff, are starting to fracture from that base because they realizing Trump is standing with these fraudsters, these imposters, these Khazars who are trying to lure Americans into war so that they can go over there and get a foothold over there in the Middle East. So this was the message that was coming out about a month ago that you were seeing on places like CNN, right? Concerning MAGA. So now let me show you the next clip.
Tonight, MAGA divided. Donald Trump's support for Israel's actions against Iran is splitting his own base, pitting Israel hawks against those who fear the United States is being pulled into an even bigger regional fight. But remember, when the president campaigned on this message.
I will stop the chaos in the Middle East, and I will prevent World War III. I'm going to keep us out of World War III. We're not going to have World War III, but I will prevent World War III.
Former Fox host Tucker Carlson sent Trump a stern warning this morning in his newsletter. Quote, the United States should not at any level participate in a war with Iran. No funding, no American troops, no troops on the ground. Drop Israel. Let them fight their own wars. What happens next will define Donald Trump's presidency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Israel is a nuclear-armed nation, and they're less than $400 billion in debt. They are quite a thriving and successful nation. Their economy is strong. They're doing a great job for their people. However, the United States, the American citizens, are $37 trillion in debt. Yet we're continuing to send hundreds of billions of dollars in foreign aid constantly to foreign countries. This has to end at some point. Our problems here at home for Americans and the American taxpayer that are paying for all of this have gotten too large. And I also want to point out that Israel bombed a Catholic church in Gaza, and that an entire population is being wiped out as they continue their aggressive war in Gaza. Now, we are heartfelt about the October 7th tragedy, that when people were killed, innocent people were killed. However, at some point, the United States needs to recognize that Israel is a strong country. They are nuclear armed, and they are capable of defeating their own enemies. It's right to stop funding this, as we give them $3.8 billion every single year anyways. Mr. Speaker, I ask for support for my amendment, and I yield the remainder of my time.
So y'all see, Marjorie Taylor Greene gets up there, Tucker Carlson makes his speech about, you know what I'm saying? Us supporting Israel and all the things that they're doing. Marjorie Taylor Greene gets on there and they say, oh, well, it's because, we're sending billions of dollars and we got to quit sending all the money, because that's what a lot of the Christian Zionists is like, why we're big time in debt and we're sending all this money over there to them when they're not in debt like we are, right? And you know what I'm saying? And why are we sending them weapons and all that? They're a nuclear nation. They can fight on their own, can't they? Why are we involved in this, right? So it's not making sense. So she put her little bill out there. Guess what? I think she got like 5 or 6 votes. Everybody else, thumbs down. You know what I'm saying? All of these senators straight trashed that. You know why? Because they're bought and paid for by Israel. You see what I'm saying? And most of, the conservative Christians are now starting to realize this. And this is the message that's been, that's gradually being pushed out online on the internet. That's why they want to shut down TikTok. They want to shut down, get more control over YouTube and all the things that are being said, about their, the United States ties with Israel. But see, nobody wants to bring up that there's United States interest is to get over there and get a foothold in the Middle East, right out there with the Gaza Strip, because Trump already told you where that oil and all that stuff is, not to mention you got the Suez Canal that runs right through there. The bottom line is, they having a hard time, with the Houthis down there, in Yemen, when them ships and all that stuff come up there. If y'all are sitting up there in Gaza, right there where, those ships got to come through, the Suez Canal, then all of a sudden you control the trade and everything that's coming through there. You control shipping and all that, right? So the bottom line is, it's in the United States interest to, to go over there and take over that region. But they ain't telling everybody that. They want to make it look like it was a biblical reason, and that's the reason why they stole our identity, right? You know what I mean? Like the guy said, you kill somebody, right? You take his identity, and then you claim it as your own, and you go in there and take over their land, their territory, and everything else, right? So that was the whole rules that they've been trying to play on people. Well, needless to say, as this information is coming out, as people begin to understand it, now here comes another cover-up story, another don't look here, look over there, right? Now they bringing up the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, okay? Let's go to the clips.
And I think the truth, for whatever it's worth, in case you're interested, is that the DOJ didn't release lots of incriminating sex videos with Epstein and his billionaire pals because they don't have them. They don't have them because when the original search warrant was served, 2007, I think, possibly 2006, I think 7, it was basically designed to protect Epstein. The search warrant was written in such a way to make sure that the feds never got their hands on the actually incriminating evidence. It's another way of saying the cover-up has been going on since 2007, almost 20 years. And so the real question is not, was Jeffrey Epstein a weirdo who was abusing girls? Yes, we can answer that. The real question is, why was he doing this, on whose behalf, and where did the money come from? And those are the questions that need to be answered. And I think it's entirely fair to ask them. And it's not adequate to say anyone who asked them is somehow desecrating the memory of little girls who died in Texas are not going to put up with that answer. I don't care who gives that answer. That is not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan. Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that.
6 years after his death, one man manages to accomplish what so many others have tried and failed to: fracture Donald Trump's MAGA base.
He's dead for a long time. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is.
We examine the story of the Epstein files and the unprecedented pressure they have put on the White House. Genocide, the term the New York Times shied away from for so long, finally makes it into an op-ed describing Israel's assault on Gaza. Donald Trump's second term as president has been ridden with chaos and controversy, with most of the criticism coming from outside of his base, the Make America Great Again movement. The saga surrounding the late Jeffrey Epstein, though, an old friend of the president, has changed things. And this time, Trump does not have much of the right-wing online media ecosystem on his side. For years, MAGA influencers, especially podcasters, talked up conspiracies attached to Epstein, the financier and convicted sex offender. They rejected the official suicide narrative and blamed the so-called deep state controlled by Democrats for killing him. With Trump back in office, they want answers, the release of the evidence in the case, the list of other pedophiles also involved. Trump has deflected questions and complained about the demands to make the files public before finally ordering a limited release of evidence on Friday. It is hard to imagine that Trump would release anything that would implicate himself, which means that his critics will probably keep pushing for more. Conspiracy theories can come back to bite their creators, and Donald Trump has been getting a taste of that. By repeatedly refusing to allow the FBI to release the Epstein files, evidence about a sexual predator and who was in his circle, Donald Trump created a dilemma for himself and raised questions that are now afflicting his administration.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Starting with how, when you have traded in conspiracy theories for so long and weaponized them against your political opponents, do you fight one off that is being used against you? Jeffrey Epstein was an American financier, a serial rapist of minors, girls. Based in New York City, he chummed around with the super rich, including Donald Trump, who Epstein once described as his closest friend. In 2019, Epstein was charged with child sex trafficking and jailed. He was found dead in his cell a month later. His death was ruled a suicide, which many Americans simply do not buy. Although Epstein died under the first Trump administration, MAGA Voices Online spent the Biden years alleging that the files relating to the case were being withheld in order to shield prominent Democrats from prosecution.
Of course, Chucky Schumer's involved. Of course, Uma Abedin, Hillary Clinton. It's always the same story. These are some very sick people.
So the MAGA base is waiting for these Epstein files. They believe there is a list that's been hidden by elite cabals of pro-pedophile politicians. Pam Bondi comes in, Trump's hand-picked attorney general. She goes on Fox, where else, and says in February,
"It's sitting on my desk right now to review."
The Epstein client list is sitting on my desk waiting to be released. You can imagine the anticipation, the hunger, the enthusiasm, the energy. They're finally going to get the list. And then a few months later, Pam Bondi says there is no list. It was a suicide, nothing to see here, move along.
I'm going to tell you about Jeffrey Epstein. Some news last night as I was flying in. I saw the news regarding Dan Bongino resigning from the FBI. I saw the collision between Pam Bondi, Bongino, Kash Patel, stuff happening. I want to tell you a little story. Take you behind the scenes, take you undercover, as we try to ascertain what's really going on. They always, why do they always tell the truth only in private? Why do they not say the quiet part publicly? But maybe they say it privately. Let me take you back to the month of April. This is April 28th in a restaurant in Washington, D.C. This is the Attorney General of the United States talking to someone. They recorded it, sent it to us, talking about tens of thousands of videos.
Do you know when the Epstein files are going to get released? We hope soon. The FBI's been. Okay. So. Any dates? No. You know what it is? There are tons and thousands of videos. Yeah. And it's all with little kids. So they have to go through every one.
Now, we sent the Attorney General an email requesting comment. This is on May the 1st. A couple days after the 28th, we quoted what she had said. Tens of thousands of videos of little kids, not something that's been reported publicly. After we sent the email, suddenly we saw this at the White House.
James Comer said yesterday that all the Epstein files are missing. They still haven't heard from you.
No, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn.
It seemed to mirror quite identically what we had captured just 9 days prior.
Tens and thousands of videos. Yeah, and it's all with little kids.
There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn.
Something didn't seem to add up. It raised questions. The questions for me and my team was, and this is not an easy story for us to publish, is why share that with someone at a restaurant but not share it with the American people first? We also saw this on Joe Rogan.
No, we're giving you everything we have.
And is there video from the island?
Not of what you want.
But is there footage?
If there was footage of anyone doing anything else, we would have opened a case.
There are tens and thousands of videos. Yeah, and it's all with little kids.
Something doesn't seem to be adding up. Now, the Department of Justice issued this statement, which you probably all saw this week. There's no client list. There's no evidence of any blackmail. And there's no evidence that could predicate an investigation against anybody else. There's no story. There's no evidence. Now listen, as a reporter, as a journalist, I can always tell you, there's always a story.
All right, so we picked this up in Wikipedia, what we learned about Jeffrey Epstein, okay? Jeffrey Epstein was born January 20th, 1953, and lived to August the 10th of 2019, was an American financier and child sex offender, born and raised in New York City. Epstein began his professional career as a teacher at the Dalton School, despite lacking a college degree. Early life. Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born on January 20th, 1953 in the Brooklyn borough of New York City. His parents, Paula Stolovsky and Seymour George Epstein, were Jewish and had married in 1952, shortly before his birth. So if his parents were Jewish, he's Jewish. Next, we picked this up in an article in Newsweek, because I showed y'all the Tucker Carlson, video where he was talking about Epstein might have been working for Israel as a Mossad agent, as a spy, okay? Claims amplified by conservative commentator Tucker Carlson has shone a spotlight on Israel and its intelligence agency, Mossad, amid allegations going back years that ex-Israeli officials were close to and worked with Jeffrey Epstein, the wealthy financier and convicted sex offender who died in his jail cell in 2019 while awaiting trial on further charges of sex trafficking minors. What to know? Carlson publicly inquired about the Mossad-Epstein connection and past allegations of a symbiotic relationship as part of a larger blackmail operation on behalf of Israeli intelligence during a speech Friday to the conservative youth group Turning Point USA. So that's what I showed y'all, saying every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. All right. So now y'all see. Jeffrey Epstein being Jewish, if he was an Israeli Mossad agent and he had all of these, politicians, and world leaders on video, allegedly, if he had that, with minors, you know what I'm saying? Then of course everyone knows that you could blackmail all of these politicians, right? This would be something that you could easily destroy any, you know what I'm saying, of these politicians' career. And if they know that they're on tape, you know what I'm saying, if you got them in such compromising fashion, you know what I mean, then you could, you know what I mean, ruin their careers. And if they don't want their careers ruined, then of course, they're now your puppet. You tell them what to vote, what to say, how to say it, when to say it, right? And when it comes down to these people wanting to go over here and, you know, wanting America to support the wars, you know what I'm saying? Is this why American politicians are all lining up, siding with these people who are not even really the true children of Israel, right? And playing Americans as if we all done, you see? So this is why I said, this is how all of this stuff ties in. And this is why, you know what I mean, we're realizing now, all of everything that the Most High said must be fulfilled, right? These people, you know, they don't fear God. They don't believe God's real. They think they can go down here, and part of it, they want to go and, you know what I mean, from the Albert Pike letters, the Illuminati, they moving some of these people just based off of lust, greed, and power, right? But they go down here into this land that the Most High hadn't told them, and eventually Most High said, I'm bringing all y'all down here to the Valley of Megiddo anyway. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm going to judge all the nations for what you did to the true children of Israel. So when people now say, you know what I'm saying? See, that's why they can't say this stuff. That's what we try to tell these people all this time. When you say it doesn't matter who the true Israelites are, oh, it matters. If you don't think it matters, go ask those Palestinians that's having bombs dropped on them and that they're being starved. And when they go to get food, water, and flour, they're shooting at them. You ask them whether or not it matters. All right? With that being said, thank y'all for watching. Y'all have a blessed, wonderful day. Till we meet again, Most High bless each and every one of you. Shalom.